Hello, everybody. It's another episode of Creatives Ignite, and it is episode 491. We're so close to episode 500, and I'm super excited about that. This is the last episode of the product design series, and I get to finish with we've talked to people who are making products and selling them. We've talked to people who are that's all they do. Some people do it on the side. Some people are doing it full time, but nobody's doing it like Dee and John are doing it. So I'm really excited to have Dee. So if you've been on, Dee's been on before. She's talked about eco-friendly. She's talked about different kinds of products that she uses, that she's been on the forefront of the eco-friendly spectrum, I think, which is amazing. And she's definitely a trendsetter and a trailblazer in this one. But she also pivoted from doing traditional graphic design for other people to having products and selling them locally and selling them to online. And then they changed again, continuing to niche even further. And we're going to hear all about that today. We've also, in this product design series, we talked to people who are doing digital customer journeys and more product design in the way of, what screens and user experience and kind of user interface as well, which, we all kind of do that. It's not just online that we do that. But I'm really excited to have Dee as our last interviewee for the year. And you are closing up this product design. So Dee, tell us a little bit. You go by Diana, but I always call you Dee, so you're Dee to me. You're going to tell us a little bit about you and this business. And then I'd love for you to kind of take us through where it started and then where it is now. And then I have a whole bunch of other questions. Will you tell me a little bit who you are, where you are, what you do?
I feel like I'm warmed up because I just came from a local high school of design students who wanted to know more about the creative field. So that was interesting to talk to people who are several years younger than me. So I am Diana. Some people call me Dee Ingles, and I'm representing Wild Routed today on behalf of my son Brennan and my husband John. We are the co-founders. It is a brand we started about 5 years ago under a different name. We just basically put it under the studio name, and we've evolved since then. We worked with Andrew in the UK to do some renaming because we knew that this was like the real deal. The first name was the practice name. And so we are Wild Ratted based off of growing up outside in the woods. We're basically feral children. And then a route is the road you take to go to a national park.
Mm.
So we launched this brand after a big life change. John had lost his job of 31 years. And so we took a road trip for 5 weeks. Sounds crazy, but when in life do you get a chance in a career break to do something that people only dream of? So we did that. It was really interesting to see how each of the parks ran, what they had to offer. Got to meet people from all over the spectrum. It was really cool. But we knew when we got back, we knew we wanted to do something for the national parks. We just didn't know how. So we took the memories from what we learned, put them into some stickers, then some t-shirts. And as we all know in the creative industry, we just start pouring money into products because it's fun.
It is fun. But did you notice when you were there, did you notice that there were holes in what the national parks were able to offer? Or
Yeah, I think the big hole for me was a situation where recyclability was not in play for a lot of the parks. And single-use plastics have become a big issue in that they're finding microplastics in the water at Grand Canyon. They're starting to have dialogue about how plastic is, choking wildlife, all those gross things you see on the daily and you feel guilty about, and you're like, what do I do? So we figured that would be our niche, the eco component of it. So coming back, spending a lot of money on t-shirts and stickers without a strategy, talking to some good folks in Peoria. We have a really good ecosystem for entrepreneurs. And we talked to the small business advisory team, and we talked to with the G Beta cohort. That's a free cohort that you can go through if you want to get investors for your startup. And we just had a lot of great people like yourself and some other people. And we started to like go, okay, this is serious. We're spending a lot of money doing this. Let's get some strategy in place. So we started to work with people who could help us like make things more clear. Have
Were
a
you
road.
think were you thinking that you would going through like a it's not an instigator. What's like a
Incubator.
incubator instigator?
Yeah.
It's been a day. I had to
That's what I
I
had
was
to.
started late because my stupid computer had to restart and then all the stupid Zoom things had to do.
That's what we're good at.
Yeah, it you just and then somebody knocks on my door and I'm like, I can't talk
Right.
right now. Anyway, and with the incubator, did you think would you have taken on an investor? Was that something you were really seeking out?
I would say no. So I think between John, myself, and Brennan, we've all been working several jobs for the past 30 years. Not Brennan, but John and I. And we saved up a little bit to like give us a cushion, but losing his job was kind of a hit because, as we all know, about 60% of the money we make goes to insurance. Insurance for being a web developer, insurance for your health, your home, your car, all that is things you take for granted when you're employed by somebody else. So we had to go out on our own and find insurance, and it was really, really expensive. And so that has been a challenge. So, say your question again. I
Were
lost
you
track.
expecting doing the incubator? Were you trying to find a investor or were you really seeking out? Because that could be a lot of us don't do that part. But this is when you're having products and you're selling or you're going to have a store or a storefront, you need a lot of cash to be able to buy those products, to be able to, stock the store.
Yeah. So, back to like working a lot and making a nest egg. It gave us like a cushion. Like if something went bad, like you plan for the best. You plan for the worst, but hope for the best. Well, the worst, not the worst, but a worst happened, and it kind of caught us off guard. So that gave us a minute to like figure out what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives. And I've been laid off twice. John's been laid off once. And so we kind of talked to each other and we're like, just want to work for ourselves the rest of this gig. So that's when we started doing the national park stuff. So we didn't want to take on an investor just because we had been told by a mentor that when you take an investor on, it's like picking up a hitchhiker. And before you know it, that hitchhiker is driving your car away and you're alongside of the road. So that can work that way in some situations and others not. So I don't want to steer people away from taking investment, but that's what we were able to take away from it.
And you had some nest egg to be able to invest in this.
Right.
So you spent how long? Kind of paint the picture of you've created these stickers and these T-shirts. Then what? How were you selling them? What were you doing? And then why did you decide to go in a different? I mean, because you're still doing stickers and T-shirts, but
Yeah. So the mentor that advised us not to take an investor on at this time also advised us to do user study, user interviews. And we have a local market, a farmer's market that if you sell there, that you have to be from Illinois, making products in Illinois. So it's not like you're buying junk, you're buying true, grown, made pottery, all that kind of stuff. So we did that for 2 years. And so every Saturday morning, we'd pack up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. We'd get down there, we'd set up and we'd sell. We did pretty good, but we got to have a lot of interaction with people about what they liked, what they didn't like. So after about 2 years of that, I got pretty burnout. When you're in a tent in a 90-degree day and as you can tell, talking is not my strong point.
you're
I
talking great.
I prefer design heads down. You know, you know. So after that, we're like, okay, is this the best use of our time and our money? Because when you have materials that are sitting out in the sun, they're also being exposed to weather and sun. And so we had to like really rethink. So we're like, you know what? I think we're gonna pivot here and start to do wholesale because wholesale seems to be a better use of making more money with the least amount of time. So that's when we started going to a trade show.
So then John went to the first trade show on his own,
Mhm.
and what was the trade show called?
Public Lands Alliance.
Public Lands Alliance. So,
Yeah.
like, what was the goal, and how did you find Public Lands Alliance, and how did he convince you? Because you were like, I don't think we should go.
hmm So, as we all know, it's fun to be married to the person you're in business with and not make any money and come home and not make any money. And so we, of course, went to a lot of national parks, and John is very much extroverted. And he was talking to a ranger, and the ranger's like, well, you go to PLA if you want to sell the national parks. So this was 2 years in. And so he came home and he's like, I think we should go to this trade show. And I said, I think you're crazy because you're spending money that we just don't have. Are you crazy? And he's like, I think we should go. I think you should go by yourself then because it'll be cheaper. And so, of course, he goes down there and he makes all kinds of friends. And he's like, this is the trade show. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm eating crow right now because you were right. That was the place to meet up with these people who actually buy. It's the conservancies that have buyers and run the stores for the parks.
And it's
So
once a year.
once a year, you
And you
can,
didn't know, though. You don't know because
oh
other
no,
things have more than once a year thing. And you really don't know if you're not in wholesaler.
yeah. I think there's a good lesson there when you're under stress of not making money.
Mm,
Your logical brain kind of goes into like survival mode. And maybe that's a lesson the audience can take is to like bring other people into the fold that can see you when you can't see yourself.
mm.
So luckily, John's logical brain prevailed, and he's like, I think this is where we can meet people. And so here we are going to the show every year and meeting more and more people. And the people are hardworking and they really want to do great things for the park. And so it's an excellent fit. I wish they met more than once, but once it is.
And park rangers are the people who sometimes it is some of this park ranger has all these extra hats that they're buying stuff or they have a lot of hats on that they're wearing.
Uh-huh.
So it their attention is really divided during the year, maybe, and it
Uh-huh.
maybe even at this. How many other vendors go to this?
I think it's about 50. It grows every year. I mean, it's not something that is a few $100s to go to. It's several $1,000s to be in it, and that doesn't count what you're bringing or what the travel you have to get there.
Right.
So I would say it's not really the rangers so much that are coming to buy. The rangers are an employee of the federal government, so they can't, but they do weigh in on interpretive information, so they are part of the equation. But it's the conservancies that have people that
Okay.
they know what to look for, they know what sells in their store.
So each park has a conservancy.
Yeah, it could be called a conservancy, or it can be called an association, or it can be
Mm.
a history thing. So every park has its own, like, think about a shark that has one of those little fish that nibble on it.
Hmm.
It's symbiotic relationship. It's like that.
Okay. So um, at some point you meet this woman who becomes your consultant, and that has been like a game changer. Because what we're trying to do is I mean, I hate that you've had to learn hard lessons, but I love that you're willing to share so that other people don't have the same hard lessons that you had to learn. They can learn from you. So one is go to the trade show, and there are trade shows for other different niches. So if you're the greeting cards, there's a whole trade show for you. There's like gift wrap, or there's clothing, there's march, and some are multiple times, and There are smaller ones that are in cities near you, but this is a really good thing but it was really a mindset of instead of targeting customers, you in retail, you said, hey, let's do wholesale.
Mhm.
And that was a big shift.
I think so. That was a smart shift.
Okay, so when did you meet the consultant? And you can tell us her first name at least.
Okay, Laurel. We met her at last year's trade show. So you go to the trade show every year, and you redesign your booth every year to try to make it inviting, enjoyable. Of course, you want people to buy, but I'm not really a pushy salesperson. I'm more of like, hey, is this a good fit? What can we do? What kind of emotions are you trying to convey? What kind of plants, animals do you have?
Mm,
All those types of things. And so, as a way to give back, we're members of 1% for the planet. So we have to give 1% of sales, not profits, sales to either a conservancy or back to 1% in some way that actually goes back to better things. So I thought, I'll put 1% for the planet logo in my booth, thinking that would be like, hey, we are putting our money where our mouth's at. And so I think we met Laurel at the show, and she's like, hey, she didn't say this, but I'm sure she's thinking, hey, your booth looks like crap. I think it can help you, is what I'm thinking she was saying in her head. But no, she was very nice. She's like, hey, so I think I can like work with you guys and help you niche down and get some things rolling. Would you like to work together? And this is a really great relationship. She's very into um, seeing us and reflecting back, and also putting some spirituality into it. And that, like, not only are you doing this for your living, but are you taking time to reflect at like where you've come from, where you're
mm,
going, what you actually want to do? Because it's so easy to get your head in the work and just grind and grind and grind, and then wake up 4 years later and say, am I on the path that I was meant to be on?
yeah. So she's reflective. She meets with you often.
Mhm.
She's been in the business. I think her family was they did stuff similar.
Mhm.
Um, I can't imagine that your booth looked bad because I imagine that the booth looked awesome. Because you're both great designers. Um, but I think some things maybe you had lots of different products and now she helps you focus in on certain things. It's too cold here today. It was like, I think I have almost every single t-shirt you have sold. I love, and I was just going to wear this striped shirt and my favorite yellow sunflower wild routed t-shirt. But it was just too cold and I had to wear a sweater. You wouldn't have been able to see it anyway. Heat's not good in this building. Um, but what kind of things product wise did you say, okay, we're not going to be doing this. We're going to focus in on more of these types of things? Like, I guess, okay, yeah, then I'll ask the question. Sorry.
Okay, so I feel like as a creative person, it's really hard to wrangle your creative brain in and stay in a couple lanes and perfect them. So we were doing Miram tags, which is the plant-based leather. So on top of that, we were doing apparel and stickers and bandanas and sketchbooks, all the things all of us creatives just love to buy ourselves.
Mhm.
And she was really good at like getting us to reflect and say, hey, what have you perfected? And we're like, well, I feel like we've been heads down trying to perfect everything. And she's like, hey, let's just offer the things you're really good at right now. Because as you know, when you buy materials or you have somebody create things for you, even though you would do something a certain way and you would put it out a certain way, not everybody has the same work ethic. So it's taken years to get in connection with people who will produce a product that we don't have the equipment for in the way that we know our customers want. So that's
That's,
been a challenge.
yeah, do you think that in doing that, do you think you've stuck with the same vendor or when would you stick with the same vendor and just keep tweaking, or when would you be like, no, we're going to a different vendor? Like what kind of things quality wise? Because sometimes you can be like, oh well, I know you didn't do this exactly, but this is how I want it. I didn't tell you, I assumed. So if when is the point where you're like, there is no turning back, you made everything a different color than it was supposed to be or something?
I think we've been very fortunate. Growing up in this area, a lot of the people we work with are people we've actually worked with, or we know that they do what they say they're going to do, like our laser etcher, amazing person, does phenomenal work, is very clear conversation, communication. We are onto a new silk screener because our other silk screener stopped doing silk screening. He's only doing direct to garment. And
Mm.
so we had to scramble and find somebody who can print algae ink, as you know. It's a very niche market.
Mm-hmm.
So we just found that person. And I think the only thing that's been a super challenge would be like a silk screener we used way back in the beginning. They were really lovely people, but they weren't like really willing to try algae ink. And so that was challenging to get somebody to try a new material because it's a water-based product, takes a little bit more hands-on, but that's what we really needed to do. So, you always part ways in the best of ways, but if somebody isn't a good fit, you kind of have to cut it soon. So I think the biggest challenge for a vendor would be stickers. And so not
Right.
everybody creates stickers the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were using a couple different vendors and we tested them on our cars and they were fading and maybe not holding up the best. And then we went to Creative South one year and Sticker App was giving away coupons, golden tickets, and we tried them out and just they're just phenomenal at getting things to us when we need them. Holidays can be a bit of a challenge because, people are in different holidays than we are, but it's been a really great experience. So I think we've been really fortunate now that I communicate with you what that's like. But as we grow, I think it'll be more challenging to bring on new products and keep them at the margins that we need to make a profit. But I think so far, so good, minus the stickers have been challenging until now.
Okay, so how would you determine what products you make? So you and John are both illustrating, and Brennan illustrating things. Like, how do you decide, oh, let's put that flower on this t-shirt, or let's put that flower on this, or how? Because I think that if you're running this as a business and not as a side hustle, this is like, I need people to buy this. This needs to be attractive too. So is there a formula that you've figured out on actually which drawings get into it? Are you still drawing as much? Or are you like, or are you being very specific? I know John's being specific on, because he has so many drawings he has to make before January. But before, I think you would draw things and then you were like, this is neat, let's put the sun. Or maybe not. Maybe it was more strategic.
So what I would say to that is when you go to the trade show and you meet people, I think people look at your booth and they're like, yes, they can do what I need them to do.
Mm,
But I think first and foremost is like, is it a good connection? Do they feel like they can trust you?
mm,
Do they feel like you'll carry them well so that they're successful in their store? So relationships will never stop being one of the most important thing when you have a business.
mm,
Second, I think, as you know, we're an eco-friendly brand or an eco-conscious brand. I try to be conscious of what I'm doing. Not everything we make, stickers, is eco-friendly. However, we do try to be transparent. And one of the eco components of what we do is when people ask us to create like a coloring book, we don't just create it and hope they buy it. We create it based on what their needs are and what their specific plants and animals are. So when, let's say, somebody goes to Creators of the Moon and they pick up a copy of the coloring book we did, they will feel like once they've left the park and they're flipping through that book, that they're seeing the places they actually walked through and touched and experienced are still in that book. It's not a one size fits all. So most of the things we do are custom.
Mm-hmm.
And we're currently building a library. As you know from talking to John, he's trying to illustrate something like 5 million animals. It feels like that. While we're trying to open up a retail shop and doing all the like the build out and the trim and all that kind of stuff. So we're basically building a library.
Okay, so that's been a big change on maybe how the strategy wise for maybe this is just what sets you apart from other people. They would just have things, and you actually can have these. You actually take your own photos, you go out to the park, and then you create these custom coloring books. You create stickers, you create notepads. There's all kinds of things that you're able to create, and it does look like that park. When you're thinking about creating a library, which it does feel like 5 million, I think, but you have these things, you also have come into another kind of epiphany. And maybe this is where Laurel helped. Laurel?
Mhm.
Okay. Where she helped was the name dropper. Can you explain kind of, because it is custom. I mean, it is, y'all are doing it's your style and nobody's going to replicate your style, but it's also very specific to that park. So if you're creating a library, how would you use this library to create custom things, right? But I think that's where you've been brilliant. You want to
Mhm.
tell them, or do you
So
want to keep that in?
let's see if I understand and reflect what you're saying. So basically, building that library has plants and animals and specific landscapes that we've done for specific parks in respect to their landscape. You know, one
Mhm.
might have a volcano, one might have an ocean, some might have both. So as we draw something, it goes into the library and it's done in black and white for the coloring books and color for stickers, prints, things like that that we're doing. So when you think about a black bear is a black bear, no matter pretty much where you are, and a brown bear is a brown bear, no matter pretty much where you are. I mean, I know they have different names for them. So I think we're building like general things and then just banking all of those animals, all of those plants, you know, salmon are pretty popular. And then every time we create a custom project for a client, we bank all those things and we keep them on separate layers.
Okay, so
So go ahead.
when you're doing like one thing that has happened, I think after this last show, I think you had it already, and there are these awesome. I don't know if you have any. I didn't bring mine, but they're the stickers, and then they have. It's like a manatee, and in Florida there are multiple. Hey Doc, there are multiple um national parks. I'm pretty sure in or state parks even, but there are multiple. So you could use the same manatee drawing, but have it say. I don't even. I shouldn't have used Florida, but
No,
anyway,
it's okay, like Biscayne or
right.
Tortugas or Everglades.
The
Right.
Everglades, right. And then it's the same thing, but then I can I can be the conservator person and I can say, well, I like this manatee and I like this alligator. I want these with my name on there. Is that possible? Because then it's only all you have to do is change the name, but it still is the manatee and it's
Mhm.
still so it's like because you have this library now you can create multiple things. Even if you were doing something in the Everglades, you would have to create some custom landscapes because there's not a volcano and there's you know not a
Right.
mountain.
Right.
But there would be other things that you would be able to now create more bank, and some things may be just Everglades like the redwoods in California that may just be at Yosemite, like I maybe not, but whatever. But like you're taking some things and that some of these illustrations are only going to be at this one thing, but possibly. You are creating other things that aren't going to just be at one location. And then if I was at a different conservator place thing, I could put different names in there. And I think this was, instead of creating everything is custom, but instead of creating a different one with different type, it's now you have a space for the type,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. So that brings up a good point. We offer where you can put your name into a specific lockup of an animal in a background for a sticker, or you can have something completely custom. And I know that like when you're a park buyer, you do wear many hats. Like you were talking about a ranger, but flip that to a park buyer.
Park buyer. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. Park buyer.
Yeah. So some of these people are just, they're managing teaching children. They're working with indigenous groups to bring awareness to the lands that they're on. They're running the store, they're buying. So my heart goes out to them. So I think the name drop stickers will be an easy way for them to say, I want that animal with my name in it. So they can actually bring something into their store, try us out, and then possibly go to something more custom as people become more aware of wild routed.
And on the back of those stickers, there's a little paragraph about the manatee or about the whatever, which I love. And it's full color printing on the back. And you
Mhm.
have the 1% for the planet. And the park could put their logo on the back as well,
Yep.
which
So
which I think
gives
is
them information, right?
right. So not just the name of it on the front. It's also just that other piece of information that's on the back that now people aren't going to throw that thing away because it has information on it. They don't
Mhm.
want to throw it away
Yeah.
because, which I think is again a great way to. It's just using all the sides of this document, I guess.
Right. And
Um,
it also creates more value for parents who have multiple children. We've done a lot of interviews on what a typical parent coming into the store might be able to purchase based on how many kids they have and their budget. And so our sticker sheets, which are 5 inches by 5 inches, also have a coloring page on the back. So that's not being wasted. And the child not only has multiple stickers to share, but they all also have like an activity.
yeah, I love that. Okay, um, so there's one trade show that is for the parks. Is I can't remember what it's called, PLY or
Yeah,
PY.
like there's also outdoor retailer, but that can be when you're a little bit further along because that's where your Patagonias and Marmot
Mm.
and people who sell niche RVs would hang out. But we have been to that show in Denver just to audit it.
Just kind of to walk the floor to see if
Mhm.
this is a good fit. And maybe not this year, but maybe in a few years. It's
Yeah,
something to work towards, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I think that that's good to know. Maybe go walk it first, and there might be more than one. Um, see when they are, so that you can know how to budget time and space, because you have to rent certain amount of physical space. I know that some trade shows that I've work design stuff for, they usually have like tables to like have somebody come and stand so you can write out orders or things. Um, sometimes they have products and you have stuff and it sort of looks like you're in a retail space so that people can kind of go around.
Mhm.
And if you're flying from Peoria to Seattle or San Francisco, I think it was in San Francisco last year, right?
Yeah.
Um, it can be expensive. Even if you have to drive, it's expensive, or if you have to fly with all that stuff. Is there any kind of tips that you figured out with doing the trade show? And I mean, if you have 50 people or if you're a huge company, okay, no problem. But this
Mhm.
isn't a huge, this is you trying. How have you figured out how to make it work with either driving and it fitting in your vehicle or flying?
So when you drive, obviously a lot more easy because we have a truck. Truck has a wrap on it, so it's basically a mobile billboard. So easy with the truck. We have tubs we put in the back. We have a liner that goes over the back. Of course, you have to be strategic with what you can carry. But usually, if we take what we're doing via an airplane and put it in the truck, it's a no-brainer. So picture the Ingles family in an airport. We have calculated down to the last ounce what each suitcase can carry. And John makes a game out of this, and I just step back and just watch him and Brennan work. But so we have a grouping of orange suitcases and black suitcases, and we've reverse engineered what's bulky and what we can take out of our display. So you do a lot of poles that pull up with a thing that goes across, and then all of our backdrops roll up because they're vinyl. We have a local service bureau that's been here in Peoria since the 70s. So I just go over there and say, here's what I want, and they make it. So we've got it to the point where we're down to the last ounce. We have the bags marked, so we know what we can take on as a carry-on. We know what we can take on personally, and we know what we can check, and everything's down to the last measurement. But sometimes when we're at the airport and they weigh it, or maybe our scale wasn't as great as their scale, so then we have to go over to the side, unpack all of our packages, and like John strategically picks things out and puts them in the other bag so that we don't have to pay any more for anything else. So it is a lot of work. It's kind of fun, sometimes not so much, but that's life, making memories, whether they're like challenging or not so challenging. I'm like, we're doing this. So then we get on the plane and we have everything we need. We've calculated if we lose something underneath, we only put the specific things that we really, really need in our carry-on bags.
Mm.
So this is where John's industrial design capabilities really play. Like John will go to Disney and to the Tinker Toy section, and like we were just at the Lego store, and they have a box that's about that big, and he packed in so many Legos. I'm like, dude. He's like, there's still space. So I go up and I weigh the box, and they're like, oh, it's you pay for the box, not for the weight. And I'm like, you lose because he packed it in there. So he's really good at that. So I think you take your human skills and you factor in
Mm.
those to like what you're doing. So it's like everything you've been through your whole life culminates into this situation where you're like, okay, our bag tore open. How do we fix that? Well, duct tape or a no-sew or something like that.
So what if you, because I feel like it's continued to niche and niche, even though it's been eco-friendly and eco-conscious throughout the whole time. It's also um it's it's gotten more about the style of illustration. It's also very clear, uh, more about the national parks, even though you were always like my sunflower shirt, which I love. Um, it maybe isn't national park, but it's still outside, being outside, right? Um, how has choosing a niche been helpful to you?
I think some days doing this makes you crazy because there's 100 things to think about, and you're trying to make a living doing it. So I would say all the things we started off doing, like the campfire shirt, which I know Doc's girls each have um, a shirt, and he
Mm-hmm.
sent me pictures. So thanks for that, Doc. I really enjoy seeing the kids out in nature with those on. The sunflower shirt, the robot shirts, I think all of that will dwindle away
Mm-hmm.
so that we can really focus on the national parks, and really focus on public lands because the more we sell, the more we can give back.
So I love my Craters the Moon shirt too. That one's awesome. Okay, so um, tell us about you've talked a little bit, but the sustainable. It's not just algae ink, which is huge and big. Again, something that really sets you apart is even just that. But it's also the Miram. It's also what you package your stuff with. The Can you talk a little bit about eco enclose or just
Mhm.
how you've been able to find and things like Miram and other things that are really focused in because that's another part of your niche, I think.
So think about when you're in school as a creative person. And if you're like me and you found school to be boring because you're very curious and you didn't like to sit still and you wanted to like go take on the world, I think that's like going through school like that made me realize that maybe I wasn't a good fit for school, but I was a really good fit for this. Because once somebody
Hmm.
gives me a challenge, I tend to rise to meet it and find as much information as I can. So I would say anytime I can do something more eco-consciously, I'm going to search out what that is. And I would say a big thank you to people like Eco Enclosed. Solani Doshi bought the company with her husband, and they have put the work in to make things easier for us. They're working with Sway, which is a seaweed film. So I'm testing the seaweed bags to replace plastic bags for the prints we might be doing or sticker packs, things like that. They also have a craft box that has a seaweed panel in the window that I'm testing. Algae Inc. Shout out to Scott Fulbright, started out in Colorado. Scott and his team have busted their butts to make Algae Inc. a reality. And now Patagonia and Marmot, all kinds of people are adopting it because if you can replace black that's made with oil, like it's just a win. You're using agricultural waste basically. Algae just comes off of a pond. Of course, they grow it a lot of the times to make enough of it, but
Hmm.
and then with the Eco Enclosed, they're like doing the research, they're doing the testing, and they just make it available to retailers. So if anybody here sells a product and you're just looking for more information, just go to Eco Enclosed. They have videos, YouTube channel, all that kind of stuff. So we try to package and send our things out with as much eco things as possible. And we slip a little card in there and says, "Hey, in
Hmm.
case you didn't notice, this is this is really packaged carefully to make sure we're not adding to the pile of waste. We're actually doing something that is better for the planet, and hopefully that's a win." And then Miriam's kind of struggling right now because they just lost a big investor. I think that's the plant-based leather.
Hmm.
That's what we make our key fobs and our key straps out of. So we'll see what happens with them. There are other materials like fruit leather, apple leather, those types of things, but Miriam was truly all plant-based. And so we're excited to see them possibly get another investor and continue on their journey, but we'll see about
So
that.
with Miriam in particular, so you see what it can do, then and this is where I think true product design kind of comes in is do you ever see it and are like, hey, could you try this? Could we do it in this shape? So we have a coffee sleeve. I know you've done a coffee sleeve. Um, do you have when you see something like that, that's maybe they just have it as a patch or something or whatever, then do you have other ideas of what other things they could do? And are you telling them that, or are you just saying, hey, I'm going to get you to make this for me?
I think that's where having 1% for the planet logo on our booth space kind of sets us apart a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because those people that come to us because of that logo have already done research or are already following the Patagonia way. And so they are looking for us to have those new materials, those things that have already been vetted and tested. So that type of relationship is very easy to have. But there are relationships with maybe other parks that they don't have the budget to have somebody that's in like a recycling situation
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes some materials and methods situation. So you have to teach them. And as we know, there's the early adopter, there's the middle adopter, there's a late adopter. And so sometimes it's a little bit more time consuming to talk to a late adopter or somebody who doesn't even believe that to be true. I know recycling has become very political, which is scary, but I just hope like for the future of our planet, we just keep trying to be informed and do what's right.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of times when we start our own business, we obviously want it to be financially successful. We're not starting it to lose money. But we also are starting our own business. And you said this earlier, to do what we love for the rest of our lives. So, how much time? Because it seems like a lot of this is, I mean, it seems fun still. Even the packing thing even seems fun. But it seems like, some people I think are like, oh, I'm going to work for myself and make my own art. And that's what a lot of, but it's not that much making art. Like you got to market and you got to do all these other things if you're having products to sell. So, how much time per month do you and John create new art? And I know you really have a process where y'all are working. He does one part and then you do the color and
So I would break that down at the very granular level. There's a difference between art and design. Art solves a problem. Art is emotional and design solves a problem. And then there's a gray area in between. So you kind of have to know your lane. And
mm-hmm.
so I would say our lane is like kind of art, but mostly design because we're trying to create products that are good for the planet and not bad for the planet. And the problem we're solving is not adding plastic to the equation, but
Mm.
actually replacing it. So our procedure or our standard operating procedure, if we want to be like technical, is John does the research and makes sure that the reference he's using is our reference or from a royalty-free
Mm-hmm.
site that offers animals and plants, things like that. We do our very due diligence not to infringe on anybody's photography copyright. So he does the research, he does the illustrations and sketches them out. I beat him down for making them too complicated because then I have to draw all the lines that he makes. So we've come to a happy medium of having like a very balanced page. I think John has a hard time knowing when to stop, which is good and bad, as we all have those little quirks. And so then after he does the illustration, he scans it. And we have iPhoto set up that he puts it into a bank and lets me know that it's ready. I open Fresco, I add it as a base layer, and then I already have my pin set already set to the line weights that I want. I know the model I'm going to draw it into, and I do all the black and white. And then once the black and white is done properly and we don't see any weird shapes, you got to check for like things that or be like people like that looks like a
Yeah.
insert your comment there. And
Right.
so we double check for that. We also show it to our kids, and our kids like double check our brains. And then once that's okay, I move into color. I tend to be very, I don't really strain, I don't really rein myself in on color. I try to make it magical and delightful
Mm.
and use a lot of warms and cools to create balance and delight people. So like when you see a mountain, it might be pink. Or
Mm.
you see an animal, it might have a touch of like um, purple in its eye or something like that to create that Disney-esque
Mm-hmm.
magic into our illustrations. So from time to time, I'll get it wrong. And one of my kids will be like, I think you don't have the right color combination, and they'll help me. So it's really nice to get that outside influence
Mm-hmm.
because again, you can get yourself heads down in your iPad and not come up for days and not step back and look at what you're doing.
So in the beginning, you were making lots of different pieces, lots of different illustrations, and then you were choosing to put some things in on stickers or some things on T-shirts. And now it sounds like it's much more strategic. And if a park is interested, you're doing something that it would be interested to. You're not going to go do that custom until you have a contract, probably.
Right. So you go back to that strategy of who are you trying to entice
Mm-hmm.
with what you're doing.
So when do you add a new type of product? So you had stickers, you had t-shirts, and keychains and fobs, and then you started doing coloring books. Um, is that kind of a good range now? Is this once a year, once every 5 years you reassess this? Like,
I would say every year. You
okay.
re you reassess after sales that you have. You're like, what were people excited about? What sales in the parks? Like we visit a lot of stores and we're like, what kind of merchandise are they carrying? Here's something we didn't think of, and we try to put our own spin on it. But I will say it's usually a clash between John and myself when he's like, do you really want to add another SKU? Do you know how much work that is on the back end? And I'm like, no, because I'm not doing it. I'm just creating it. So we have a delicate dance there where we're like, okay, could we be profitable doing it?
Hmm.
And is the what do they say? The juice worth the squeeze?
That's right.
So again, you get that you have to rein that creative person in, and it's so freaking exciting to create something and put something out there and see it in a store, and you get so wrapped up with your endorphins. You have to allow yourself to have that excitement, but then also come back to the spreadsheet and say, what's reality? What can I do?
So working this way, where you're going to a trade show, you have some prototypes. Do you have I would assume that you don't have to have as many on hand. You could actually place the order if they're not expecting to get them that afternoon.
Mhm.
So is that where you can save a little bit in you creating some prototypes for them to see? And then once the order comes in, then you don't have to have as much on stock. Is that correct?
Yeah. So one thing our accountant taught us the very first year we started this is it's cost of goods sold, not cost of goods purchased.
Mm,
So we had thousands of dollars of inventory that we couldn't write off. And we're still carrying a lot of that because we stopped doing the markets. And so having a good accountant tell you like the ins and outs of things keeps you from making big mistakes. But I think that's where our excitement got away from us. And we're like, this is so exciting to create t-shirts and sell them and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, before you know it, you have like 12 bins in the basement that you're trying to fight moths and
right.
smells. So bamboo sachets in there and just babying everything and making sure everything smells great. Brandy commented once when she got one of our shirts, she's like, these smell so good. I'm like, because the bamboo sachet, it keeps all the smells away. So there's so much behind the scenes.
Yeah. So it's stuff that we don't think about. It's all that extra stuff. But one other thing, so after a show, you come back. Is that when you evaluate or reevaluate maybe and say, what were people excited about? What sold well? Or is it at a different time? So it's usually in February or March, right? March.
Yeah, this year it's going to be in February, but it's usually in March.
So does it happen right after you do that, or does it happen in December? Like,
So I would say we're kind of an established brand, but we're not where we want to be yet. And I think once we are there and we are making a lot of consistent sales, I think we will do that. But right now we're constantly evaluating. I would say maybe 4 or 5 times a year, we're like just looking, okay, is this, has the cost gone up?
right.
Can we do this ourselves? Do we have time to do it ourselves? Are we going to do it right? So yeah.
Okay, so I want to get through some of these because some of these were like some things that me and you talked about. So, what has been your favorite product that you've created so far? Yours, not John's, just yours.
I would say the key fob because
Okay.
it makes my life easier because it clips on my belt. And so it has all my stuff on it and I can unclip it and open the door. So I mean, I know my kids are grown, but I'm still very involved in their lives. And I have nieces and nephews I hang out with. So I think anything that makes my life easier is great. And it's eco. It's eco.
Yeah. Okay. So, we talked about mindset and in regards to the way you were raised. So, I don't know if you can kind of give a synopsis about, you were, we finished a mason jar. I mean, this is this is my talenti. I got this for my husband, John, but I love these because I can put my watercolor water in there and I reuse these all the time. But we have a lot of these at home. Um, so that's part of the mindset of don't throw anything away. We can use these things. But it's also maybe some of the ways that you were raised have worked against being an entrepreneur. What do you think? Have you had to fight so that you could be more successful?
I wish I could have gone to a design high school. I think that would have been a different experience for me. So John grew up a little bit differently, but we both basically grew up in the woods. Like your parents are like, hey, we'll see you at dark kind of thing.
Right.
But my parents, like we grew up on a homestead next door to my grandma and grandpa and all my aunts and uncles and my great grandmother. And so we grew all of our own food and we thought that was like pretty cool. And it was, but there's never like investing in things. It was always like only spend what you make. And when you're going to go into business, you have to really fork out some dollars and you have to fork it out for years before you see it come back. But if you read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Hmm.
which I highly recommend to anybody, it's a mindset shift. You're not going to be a millionaire if all you do is one thing. So if you really want to make a big dent, like I want to make a big dent because I want to give back so much. And so to do that, having your own business is the way to do that
Mm.
because you have the control and you can control what you make and how you make it and what you do with it.
One thing, mindset wise, when you and I were talking, it's also this, it's not an immediate, it's not like, oh, at, you know, this month or next month. Sometimes it's a long game, like this year, this 5 years. Um, and it can be discouraging and depressing. So, how do you avoid that valley of despair? What do you do? Because being an entrepreneur is a long game, especially in this type of product.
I try to focus on what's going right instead of everything going wrong. I highly believe in therapy because the therapist can help you reach your goals and reflect things back to you that maybe feel really awful, but maybe aren't quite that awful. So therapy is a big win. Um, I would say having a friend like you has been a game changer. I'm gonna cry. Um, Having a community of people that I've met through, Creative South and just being in your group and things like that has been pretty cool. And then we have a pretty good ecosystem in Peoria that, like, if you need to talk something out, there's somebody that can say, hey, I've been through that. Here's how I worked around it. And so I would say community and therapy are the best.
I think that's great. I totally have seen you live that out as you've asked for help, you've talked through decisions, but you have a community locally and online, internationally. You have a community that you can pour into, but you also ask of. And I think you're a great example of that. And I'm glad to be in your community and
Yeah,
you in mine. Um,
thanks.
what do you think is the one thing that's been the biggest game changer in this venture in Wild Routed?
Mm. I would say every time we're out on an adventure, I could do have to stop and say, how many adventures can one family take that you have to really stop and be grateful? Because when
Hmm.
you go out on those trips, you're not just experiencing nature, but you're trying to do photograph, you're trying to research animals and plants, and then you're trying to post on social media to give people ideas on places that they can go, um, and try to put something positive out on social media. So there's a lot in the work. So there's so many things going, you know what you're spending on it. You have to really stop and be mindful that you get to spend a lot of time with your family in cool places and try not to
Hmm.
get killed by a bear.
Yeah, don't do that.
That's always a worry.
So I skipped over this one. So what have been a few things that you've learned that you wish you knew at the beginning that maybe if you had known them that you wouldn't have had such an expensive lesson?
I think when it comes to building something, it's interesting how your own bias comes into play. Like you don't know what you don't know.
Mm.
So if you can work with somebody who's in the space, I think you get to remove that curtain or that bias of
Mm.
like, well, I'm going to do this and this is how I'm going to do it. You get to remove that and say, please teach me.
That's huge. It's also that you don't have to have everything figured out. You have some things, but you're entering a new space. You don't have to have such expensive lessons. You can just ask
Yeah.
some people, and maybe it's finding people that you can trust. I think that that is hard for some people to like find a consultant that you can share with that isn't going to take advantage. That's maybe a whole nother show. But
Mhm.
all right, tell me what's next.
What's next? Well, Wild Routed will be on a wall in Grand Teton National Park store, which is like, it's like almost so cool. It doesn't feel real. And I know that sounds weird, but it hasn't quite sunk in yet. I think it's because we're working on the designs and we haven't delivered it yet. But this is all so new. It's hard to understand what you're experiencing because
Mhm.
everything's so new.
But this is huge. Like, I remember when you told me they were like, they want us to do like, not just like a little end display, an end cap,
Yeah.
or something at the register. They're like, we want you to do the whole wall. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think I was
that's
like,
big.
am I on drugs or what's happening? So it isn't quite set in yet. And then another big thing is we got a small grant. We're building out a retail space in the building that our co-working space is in.
Mhm.
So John and Brenna are working really hard to get that open, maybe next week or the week after. And then our website is under an architect working on it right now. Our daughter's best friend is a web architect, so she's helping us with getting things to where they need to be professionally and visually, and then John's going to build it out. So a lot of things happening at once. I now realize why I'm clinically insane. So thank you for this platform to realize my psychosis.
You've come a long way. This is a lot of you pivoted by doing instead of doing your own freelance business where you're doing things for other people. You pivoted, I guess, in 2020. Was it
Mhm.
in it to
Yeah.
do Wild Routed? And it was you were still kind of doing both things, and then it went full in Wild Routed, and then
Mhm.
went full in Wild Routed as wholesale and just focusing in. And those are some big pivots, but every pivot you've gotten focused in. I know that your stuff is good. The quality is amazing. But it's also just that I know that other things aren't as high quality out there, and their conservators are buying those. So it's just really now it's about what you said in the very beginning. It's about relationships, and it's just about building those relationships. And I think about how many times I've gotten a new client standing in line that they've seen nothing of what I've designed. I mean, and I am not an awesome dresser. So, they can't really look at me and be like, because of the way you dress, I'm going to hire you to make my website.
I like the way you dress.
But, well, I wear a lot of Wild Routed, but maybe my shoes or my glasses or whatever. Maybe it's, but I think that it just goes to show that pouring time and energy into relationships that's a great reminder. And it kind of comes back to that as people aren't just going to see that. They want to do something better for the environment. And you're telling them by buying your product, they're able to do that. So now they're able to feel better about themselves, but also feel better about what they're stocking in their store or stuff. So it's that is has always been there, the eco portion and the importance and your curiosity. And I think that that's why you'll always keep making awesome things and finding new products to make awesome things with. So I
Nice.
just want to make sure that everybody knows I'm going to put these other things, Rich Dad, Poor Dad book and the Scott Fulbright. You're going to have to send me his web address, but I put the eco enclose. All of those will be on the page, but on the page where on Creatives Ignite. But your two links, which is Wild Routed WILDROUTED.com, and Roodlebox. Both of those will be, if you're watching on YouTube, it's right at the top, or you're listening on wherever you get your podcast, it's right at the top. Those two links are right at the top. If you want all the other links, just click on the next link down is the Creatives Ignite this episode link, and it will have the show notes, which will have those other links as well. But Dee, thank you for being just being on the show so many times, to be able to take us through the journey, to being honest about some things that haven't gone the way you wanted. But also it's like, oh, wow, I could have skipped ahead. I could have skipped 2 years or 6 months or $20,000 had I not made this mistake. And we do make mistakes. We make mistakes, or it's just growing, learning. But I totally believe in y'all, and I just love what you do, and I will continue to buy every shirt that you have.
Yep. And if anybody has an idea for a guest on my podcast, the Eco Podcast Riddlebox, I would love that suggestion.
And they can get to the that podcast on wherever you find your podcast, but you could also get, if you go to roodlebox.com, you can access or is it on Wild Routed?
So it's on Roodlebox. I try to keep them separate because I'm going to start offering eco audits to national park stores. So I'm trying to keep them a little bit separate because, people can get a brand confusion.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so well, that's good to know. So make sure you check out Roodlebox Eco. Say the podcast name again.
Roodlebox. ROOTLEBOX. Thanks to Andrew Burnett, who said, "Don't name your socials something different than your company names. That makes life so much easier."
But you're looking for eco. I mean, I already follow
people who are making things, or people who are doing something in recycling, or like there's a lady down south that is growing colored cotton so you don't have to dye it. She's been doing it since the 70s. I so want to talk to her.
Oh
but
my
she's hard to get a hold of.
Well, you'll get her. I have. Oh, thank you.
Thanks,
Doc put it out. I'm going to grab it so that I can have it as well. And I'll put it on your page. Thank you for being the last in this product design series. I love that you're last because you've had, in all the years I've known you, you've gone through so many changes. And I think the more things you've tried, that gives us more things to do. And I think product design is, as we've found out in all these episodes, it is more than just a product journey or a customer journey. It's more than just UX or UI. It's just bigger, and it is a confusing word to put in a job application. But I do believe that you're a product designer. You're also an entrepreneur and an artist, and anyway, an amazing friend. So I am super thankful that you were willing to do this with me in December. Very busy time. I super appreciate it. And next week is the wrap up. So I'm going to show you how I have not all the things I will have done my year reflect. And then my year planning for 2025. And there's some changes coming up. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about those next week. And that's whatever day is in a week. So today's the what? The 4th. So 4 + 7 is 11. I think.
Sounds great.
I think it's the 11th. And I'm doing my planning session on the 10th. So we will see. And hopefully I'll be able to have a little slide deck for you to show you things that I've done and where I want to go next. Because I think having a plan is important. All right, Dee, thank you so much. Love you. And I will see you guys next week.